I just have to talk to you about Fern. As you know, Adventure Time has a lot of characters who get absolutely destroyed by their own stories, right? Like Marceline's been carrying centuries of grief, Simon loses himself piece by piece to a crown he can't take off, pretty rough stuff. But Fern is on a totally different planet from any of them. And I don't think most people who watch the show actually clocked why. I've been thinking about this for like a week, and once you walk through it start to finish, it is brutal. Like, genuinely brutal. So, the episode Two Swords, Season 8. Finn shatters the Finn sword against the grass sword, fighting Bandit Princess, and out of the hilt crawls this little green guy. Finn's face, Finn's voice, every memory Finn has ever made up to that exact second of impact. Turns out, the grass demon that was living in the Finn sword had fused with an alternate timeline Finn who'd been trapped in there with it, and what came out the other side was something brand new. Nobody knew that yet, including Fern. In fact, the first words out of his mouth,
"Me? But I'm Finn Mertens, man. I'm a 100% hero. Everyone knows that."
and he's not lying. That's the thing. He's not confused like you misplaced your keys confused. He's confused like a stranger just opened your front door and told you that the house is theirs. From where Fern's standing, Finn is the imposter. But here's the part that kind of really gets me. The next 30 seconds, Fern has all of Finn's life sitting inside him. And the very first thing that the world does is go, "Nope, you're not him, big guy." Finn's right there. Jake confirms which one is real. And Fern gets told, by the way, in his first conscious moment, that he isn't who he knows himself to be. No grace window, no time to figure anything out at all. Seconds in, and the floor is already gone. Now, this has to be deliberate. They could have let him wander around for an episode, kind of get his bearings, build something before the rug went out from under him, but they didn't. His very identity gets denied the same instant it forms. Fern never had a single second of just being himself, before being told that himself was the very problem. And that's the wound that the whole arc keeps reopening. In fact, he doesn't even go villain right away. What he does is try to find a place the only way he knows how, which is by being Finn. He goes to the tree fort, sees Finn off when Finn leaves for the islands, and Finn trusts him to hold down Ooh, and he holds it down. He's actually trying to slot into a life that feels like his because from the inside, it is. But the world keeps correcting him. In fact, Jake takes him to the Grassy Wizard for answers, and the Grassy Wizard's got nothing for him. The grass sword was created as a punchline to a joke. Is that not tragic? The origin of everything Fern is just a joke. Like I said, he's got every memory from Finn's childhood, every friendship, every emotional scar, every reflex that came from years in the tree fort with Jake. He just wasn't there for any of it. And you don't just close that gap by trying harder. And nobody around him is helping him figure out what it would even look like to build something that's actually his and not just Finn at a slight remove. That part actually wrecks me, like genuine. Then in the episode Whispers, you can literally watch it all go wrong. The grass demon's webs are spreading through his head, crowding out whatever space was actually his. And what comes out of that takeover is the plan to become the only Finn. Then by the episode 3 buckets, Fern's barely there anymore. The grass demon is pretty much driving him, and it ends up with Finn's robotic arm, set to the wrong mode, jamming itself into Fern's abdomen, and Fern just comes apart into grass. And the logic that's left standing at the end is the grass demon's logic, which was always about replacement. Fern was never really in the equation. Then, and this is also the part that kind of gets me, Gumball shows up with a yellow bucket and collects what's left of him, then offers to be his uncle. And you have to think about what's behind that for it to actually land. Fern has spent every moment of his existence being treated as a mistake someone needed to account for. Gumball is the first person to come to him specifically when he is most scattered and most gone, and say something that sounds like "you belong here." So Fern comes back as the Green Knight, crashes Finn's 17th birthday, screams,
Finally, I win!
Then we have the episode Come Along With Me. Now this is the finale. Finn and Fern get pulled into this shared dream. And what happens in there is the closest the show ever really gets to giving Fern something that's actually his. They're basically inside their shared head. The dream takes the shape of Finn's life, the tree fort, the people, the version of existence Fern has all the memories of but never got to live. So Fern is walking around inside the exact thing he's been measured against his entire life. And Finn is right there with him. Now, Finn doesn't fight him. After after everything. Fern stabbing him, the birthday attack, all of it. Finn just talks to him like a brother. They go looking for the grass demon together and they eventually find it. And Fern is the one who kills it. Finn doesn't do it for him. Fern does it himself. The thing that had been eating him alive since before he was even conscious. The thing that had been steering him toward rage and replacement and all of it. Fern ends it. That's the first thing he ever does that's actually his. Not Finn's, not the grass demon's, but his. Again, another devastating part in his arc because technically Fern ended a true hero after being told his entire life that he is literally nothing, just a copy. But after that, the grass demon tells Finn the price as it's dying.
Without me, he's got no body. So back off.
The thing destroying him was the only thing keeping him in one piece. Now, in some way, Fern had to have known this. He's standing there with Finn. The demon is right in front of him, and there is no version of this where he doesn't understand that killing it ends him too. But he swung anyway. So, sure enough, he comes apart, quietly, mid-conversation with Finn. He just dissolves, and he goes out as himself. Not as the Green Knight, not as the grass demon's puppet, just Fern. Finally, somebody. His remains then form into a seed shaped like the Finn sword, and that night Finn and Jake plant it. By morning, there's this massive tree with a remade Finn sword sitting in the branches. His death produces a new Finn sword that goes on to serve Shermie and Beth's future adventures. His body actually became a landmark on the land that Finn calls home. The seed he left behind was literally shaped like the person he'd spent his whole existence being measured against. He resolved his own situation by removing himself from it, and what the world got out of it was something useful to somebody else's story. And that's the thing about calling him a hero. Most Adventure Time characters who wreck you through loss. They had something and it got taken. Marceline had a mother and then she didn't. She also had Simon and then didn't. Simon had himself and Betty, and the Crown made sure that he didn't get any of that anymore. But those arcs hurt in a way that we kind of get because something was there before it was gone. Now, Fern never got that. He didn't start solid and get chipped away. He came into existence already missing the foundational thing. Every memory he carried being proof of life he had no part in building. Every single instinct he had pointing at an identity that already belonged to somebody else. Grief has weight, and part of what makes it survivable is being able to name what you lost. Fern couldn't name anything because the loss wasn't a loss in that sense. You can't mourn the version of yourself that never got to exist. There's no object to point at, just the absence. And that absence doesn't have edges. And he was a hero anyway. That's the part that just doesn't sit right with me. He never had ground under him. He never got the version of himself that was actually his to live. He spent every conscious moment being told he wasn't who he knew himself to be. And in the 1 second where he had a choice that was fully his, he used it to kill the thing that had hollowed him out and accepted that it would take him with it. And that's what truly makes him Adventure Time's most devastating character, but also a true hero in the very end.